Hey everyone, Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com, DevOps TV, and we're here at DevOps Enterprise Summit 2017 San Francisco, joined by two friends of mine from the DevOps space. To my immediate, actually let's start with my far right, Paula Thrasher, multiple time presenter here at DevOps Enterprise Summit, but also just a really, really bright woman, in greater than DevOps even, right? And just a shameless plug, Paula is going to be a guest on my DevSecOps panel it does here tomorrow, and we'll have that on video as well. To my immediate right, one of my friends, oldest friends from the DevOps space, four-time presenter at DevOps Enterprise Summit. Grand Slam. But all kidding aside, one of the guiding lights of the early DevOps movement, and still a great guy to have here, still guiding things, co-founder of RunDeck.
Yep.
Damon Edwards. Damon, welcome.
Thank you. Good to see you again, and
good
happy
to
be
see
here.
you again. Happy to have you here. So, guys, both of you have presented now at DOES multiple times, and you're both presenting this year.
Yep.
So let's start off with that. Paula, why don't you tell us first what are you presenting on?
Sure. So, so first, I guess I should say that to some extent, I owe being at to Damon, who actually collaborated with me about 3-4 years ago.
It's true.
On one of our early DevOps journeys. So that was
really?
kind of how
cool.
I got brought into this great community.
And Paula got me working with the government for the first time.
Right.
Really?
So yeah,
it
was a cross. It's a different world. It was a cross pollination. It was good.
It's a process.
It is, and so obviously I've been in the federal sector. I work for CSRA, and we do nothing but federal stuff. But we have a journey that I think is a lot like a lot of other companies, in that we do traditional IT. What is that? Well, that's software, that's networking, that's systems administration, that's all those things. And that's really our niche, that's our specialty, but of course the world's changing. And now we're doing cloud, and we're doing DevOps, and we're doing all those things. And the challenge for that is that the talent that you need to do the new thing is a different set of skills than the skills you need to do the old thing. And so, as a company, we don't just want to go fire everybody and hire new, right? Of course, that's not practical, even if that were a model. Of course, we want to invest in our people. But we had to come up with a way that we could really transform the talent in the organization to do DevOps. And of course, people talk sometimes in the space about T-shaped talent, about having your specialists get this breadth of talent, but also not just the individuals, but how do you coach people to work better in a DevOps team? Because a lot of the presentations at the conference have talked about part of the journey of the transformation is coming together with this cross-functional team. So if you're used to working with, I'm a network engineer and I only work with other network engineers, or I'm a developer and I work with other developers, you've actually got to learn not just the skills, but also how to work in different ways, right? So I think that's kind of the interesting challenge that we've had, and how we've approached that as an organization, to really train folks for what's coming in the future, and helping them build their careers on it.
Excellent. Damon, what about you?
Yeah, so mine is, the meta idea is operations as a service. Right? The title of the talk is how to keep your DevOps transformation from crushing your operations capacity. And the issue we see is that when organizations are, they're kind of reorganizing in this DevOps way, they're putting their development and testing folks together, they're putting some operations folks on these different cross-functional teams. Well, in the enterprise, you run out of teams long before you run out of services. And then they still have these handoffs, either between those cross-functional teams or handoffs to other specialist areas that you just can't get rid of. I can't give everyone their own security team, can't give everyone their own network team, can't give everyone their own, their own data center. Right, so there's all these operational concerns that I still need to go into these ticket-driven request queues to get things done, and these queues are just painful. It's expensive. They're silo builders, they're snowflake makers. Some more jargon there. They are, they ruin everything, right? So it's really the design pattern seen is how do you turn all of those request queues into self-service interfaces? It's the operations as a service idea. So you can take all that goodness that you're going to do in those specialties, and you're going to turn them into standard operating procedures and give people outside of those traditional areas the ability to run it themselves, and also give the ability to define it themselves, right? So you can point as a point of collaboration. And by doing that, you can offload a lot of that pressure off of those groups that have become the bottlenecks in these organizations. and you see large DevOps transformations, sort of the dirty secret of DevOps, right? It's like they do these great job at the little edges here,
Right.
but when it hits kind of mainline operations, it all goes right back to the big, slow, waterfall way. So my talk's going to be focusing a lot on what happens after deployment. We're going to be doing this whole sort of epic sort of reenactment, like the Bayou Tapestry, for all those who remember history class, of walking through what it's really like in a big, ugly incident, and talk about the techniques to get out of that.
I think, Damon, that's it's an overlooked part of this whole DevOps thing is we focus so much on up to deployment.
Yeah.
And then after deployment, oh yeah, we have APM. That's we've missed out on that whole feedback loop thing and the
because you know why it is. It's the project-based funding and orientation of a big enterprise. You get money you're the hero because you delivered.
Right.
Alan took us to the cloud, right? Paula launched the Acme 3.0, right? That's what everyone's is judged on. It's not like, oh, Alan really saved us, and we're now, it takes half the amount of time to solve incidents, right? Like, you don't get promotions that way, right? Paula gets the promotion because she delivered 3.0, right? She's our hero. So I think
Phoenix Project.
Right, it's everybody wants to deliver, and plus with new technologies, everybody's about getting into production. So everyone's fixated. It's like I use a joke of like a wedding, like everyone's marriage. Everyone's fixated on getting on the planning of the wedding, that everyone forgets to plan for the day after the wedding, right? It's that same idea.
Including the bride and groom.
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Right, they haven't planned it all for what their life
Once
is going to be like,
honeymoon's
but they've
over,
spent an entire year.
We've had a great time.
Planning about for that one day, which is like the deployment, right? So it's that same idea.
Great analogy.
And how to make it holistic. Yeah, I should add that to my talk. It's not until this afternoon.
Right, there's still time.
There's still time.
I may do that talk next. How DevOps is like a marriage.
Could do a lightning talk. It'd be a good one. Yeah.
I'm not really a lightning kind of guy. But speaking of lightning talks, so this is your fourth does, your third does. It's grown and it's stayed the same in some ways. It's changed and it's stayed the same. What's your impression, so far of does this year?
I can go first. The biggest change, I think, is just the content's very similar. We have experience reports and we have the sort of expert talks or topics, and I think those are awesome to see the continuing journey. But it's funny that the original conference was like, is this going to work? Sort of a lot of ragtag rebel stories, and like, this might work, this may not work. What are we doing here? To now where it's like, oh, this is the thing. There's no more question of is it going to work.
Right.
Now the question is, how do we spread it faster and how do we solve these new challenges we were encountering because we're being successful? Right.
Yeah, actually, someone asked me this morning, how does this conference compare to other conferences in the space? And one of the comments that I made about why I love this conference so much is that for someone who works in a large organization, so my company is 20,000 people, and a lot of people at this conference are in companies that are that bigger, big, right? We're not, we're not Etsy or other, those are great innovative companies in the space doing interesting things, but they're smaller and they just don't run the variety and diversity and certainly legacy IT stuff that we do. So what's nice about it is that the participants of this conference, I feel like, are real peers. They really actually are faced with similar challenges. And I really appreciate that much more because it feels much more practical. Feels like, and I always joke, it's sort of like group therapy.
Yeah. Well, no, but it's the truth.
Kind of like.
I'm not alone.
Is.
I'm not alone.
No, it really is. And I think, I really just think that a lot of that is that there are unique challenges in an enterprise that has a huge portfolio. It's not just, this, one system. It's a portfolio of systems. They're not all perfect. They're not all things. No. And I really think that was an interesting trend so far today. A lot of people use the word journey. And actually, Suzanne was one of the speakers this morning, pointing that out. I think she was like, oh, my talk. But I think it's actually a good thing that it's been common, that there's a common refrain around that.
It certainly is a journey. Absolutely. I'm just going to one more question and then we'll let you go. A couple of speakers who have been in here this morning have talked about, well, a lot of these transformations fail. And interestingly, at Does and at other DevOps shows, we don't hear a lot about the ones that fail.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like fail in what way? Like,
that's what I asked.
Yes, because these organizations, and it's true. I think a lot, what I'm talking about, a lot of them stall out when they hit operations. But you're still, that's why the journey thing's so important. It's like the old business plan. And, everyone's business plans goes here, hockey stick, we're going to, make $1 billion. And you go back and replay the $1 billion companies, how they got there. And it was all over the map. So
it's kind of like the wedding and happily ever after.
Exactly.
Story.
So, and that's part of that old project mentality of we've got a goal and when you're going to hit it and you're going to get success for getting there.
Agreed.
And we're going to fake and hide everything, all the imperfections along the way and just claim victory, someday down the line. Versus, we're going to experiment. Things aren't going to work out like we expected, or we're going to solve one problem. This is the enterprise, and we're going to cause 3 other problems. And doing that, and then we got to redirect and we got to focus on those problems. But we're moving in the right direction as an industry. And that's why I think people keep coming to this and want to celebrate, each other's journeys. And they know that it's not all happiness, and they should probably talk more about that. But I think a lot of corporate departments don't want them to share all the warts. But that's part of, Paula said, the hallway track is where you get the group therapy, and you hear about the good and the bad. And
it's all good,
on a whole, we're going the right place.
Yeah.
As someone once said, it's all a process.
It's all a process. That's
I
very true.
guess I feel too like because I would say that in my travels of things, some have been sort of failures, but I don't think like the transformation failed. There are aspects of it that don't work out the way you want. Yeah. That's always the case. But I would challenge that not changing fails, because
well, if you're not changing, you're dying.
Right. It's like, there's a certain risk to not changing too.
I agree.
And we fail to acknowledge that. And it's normal that if you're going through a transformation, 8 out of 10 things you do will succeed, 2 will fail, sometimes spectacularly. But are you that much farther along? Do I think the journey metaphor is so great?
You learn from your failures.
Right.
That's the key.
And if you do that, then I don't think it's really a failure. Because I think if you learn something, it's not a failure. You learn something.
I also think it's the height of arrogance to think that something is going to go without a bump, without. I wish
it never has before. So why would it? Why
would
it now?
Honestly, I wish life might, like the people who get married, Damon, to your point, and think they're going to live happily ever after.
Yeah.
I wish life would work like that, but it doesn't, and neither does DevOps. So with that, though, we're going to break this one right now.
All right.
And Paula Thrasher, thank you for being here. We'll see you on our panel tomorrow. Damon, it's always a pleasure to see you, my friend.
Happy to be here.
This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com and DevOps TV here at Does Enterprise 2017.